just for a second. All right, well, good evening and welcome to the Federal Way City Council meeting for January 6, 2015, the first one of the year. We have quite a crowd, and I can tell you on behalf of the council and myself and all our staff, it's great to see this many people here. We've got a lot to do, and let's go ahead and get started, but Diane Zorro, where's Diane? Diane, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Come on, just step on out to the aisle. Nothing like advance warning. No, just in the aisle.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You didn't know there was going to be a test, did you? All right, well, welcome, everybody. First, it's my great pleasure to introduce our police chief, Andy Wong, and our new, soon-to-be sworn-in corporals, and I'll let the chief explain where we're at with this and what's going on. We're so happy to see you guys.
Good evening, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Burbidge, and members of the council. It is my pleasure to recognize members of the police department who've been promoted to the rank of corporal. Promotions don't happen very often. It is important that we take the time to recognize the achievements of these outstanding individuals. The police department has significantly matured over the years. To reach the next level of effectiveness and maximize the talent of our staff, a request was made to convert the Officer in Charge program into a formal rank of corporal, which was approved by Mayor Farrell and the council to be effective January 1, 2015. The creation of the corporal rank recognizes and rewards officers who have consistently demonstrated superior knowledge, skill, and professionalism. Corporals will act as a squad supervisor in the absence of a lieutenant, serve as a trainer and role models for officers, and participate in the department's field training program for new recruits. As a delegated leadership force multiplier, corporals will ease the lieutenant's span of control, enhance supervision at more critical incidents, and provide flexibility for lieutenants to attend their administrative responsibilities. All of the corporals will be assigned to uniform assignment in field operations. Prior to swearing them in, I'll briefly introduce each of the corporals in alphabetical order. Corporals, when I call your name, just take one step forward for the audience. Corporal Josh Haglund has been a police officer for 14 years. He was hired by the Federal Way Police Department in June of 2006. Prior to that, he was a police officer with the Maui Police Department in Hawaii, where he was awarded the Medal of Valor for rescuing the occupants of a fully engulfed burning condominium. Josh is married with 4 daughters. He enjoys fishing and landscaping. Corporal Brian Klingel has been a police officer for 18 years. He was hired by the Federal Way Police Department in September of 1996. He began his career at the Hoquiam Police Department. He was a United States medic assigned to the 10th Mountain Division. He has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from WSU. Brian was born and raised in Federal Way, where he graduated from Decatur High School. Corporal Jeff Otto has been a police officer for 14 years. He was hired by the Federal Way Police Department in January of 2001. Prior to that, Jeff worked with the local Safeway for 10 years. Jeff is a member of the SWAT team. He is competitive and athletic. He completed 2 Ironman races and summited Mount Rainier twice. He has been married for 12 years. He and his wife have 2 great kids. Corporal Keith Pond has been a police officer for 17 years. He was hired by the Federal Way Police Department in March of 1997. Prior to law enforcement, he was a food service manager and a pastry chef. He spent 11 years in the U.S. Marine Corps Reserve. He has a master's degree in criminal justice. Keith's wife and 4-year-old son are currently on vacation in China visiting family. Corporal Ron Potts has been a police officer for 28 years. He was hired by the Federal Way Police Department in March of 1997. Before moving to Federal Way, he was a deputy sheriff for the Riverside County Sheriff's Department in Southern California. Prior to that, Ron served 4 years active duty enlistment in the United States Marine Corps, followed by 6 years in reserves. Ron's hobby is photography. Corporal Robert Riggles has been a police officer for 17 years. He graduated from the College of Southern Idaho Law Enforcement Program in 1998 and was hired by the Filler, Idaho Police Department that same year. He was hired by Federal Way Police Department in April 2004. He is an assistant team leader on the SWAT team. Robert's been married for 14 years. He and his wife have 4 children. Corporal Keith Schmidt has been a police officer for 24 years. He was hired by the Federal Way Police Department in April of 2004. Prior to that, he was a deputy for the Twin Falls County Sheriff's Department in southern Idaho. Keith has been married for 17 years and has 2 children. His daughter will graduate from high school later this year. Corporal Oscar Villanueva was hired by the Federal Way Police Department as a police support officer in 2002. Prior to that, he worked for a construction company while attending Yakima Valley Community College, where he received an associate degree. We hired him as a police officer in November of 2005. Oscar grew up with 5 siblings, all sisters, and he has 2 beautiful daughters. Corporal Michael Waddell has been a police officer for 15 years. He was hired by the Federal Way Police Department in October of 2007. Prior to that, he was a deputy sheriff with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department in Southern California. Mike is married with 3 children. They like to spend their summer at the lake enjoying water sports, including wakeboarding and paddleboarding. Corporal Steve Wortman has been a police officer for 20 years. He was hired by the Federal Way Police Department in October of 2005. Prior to that, he was a deputy sheriff for the Riverside County Sheriff's Department and a police officer in the city of Banning, both of which are in Southern California. Steve has a 13-year-old daughter, and he's engaged to be married to his fiancée, Christina. Please join me in recognizing these outstanding corporals. Thank you very much. Corporals, if I could have you come up to the podium here, 2 lines, facing the mirror. If you could come this way, come closer.
All right, Corporals, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name.
I, Michael Jones,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I am a citizen of the United States
that I am a citizen of the United States
and the state of Washington,
and the state of Washington,
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
and will, to the best of my judgment,
and will, to the best of my judgment,
skill, and ability,
skill, and ability,
truly and faithfully,
truly and faithfully,
diligently and impartially,
diligently and impartially,
perform the duties of corporal
perform the duties of corporal
in and for the city of Federal Way,
in and for the city of Federal Way,
County of King, state of Washington,
County of Kings, state of Washington,
as such duties are prescribed by law.
as such duties are prescribed by law.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
Okay, family members, this is your opportunity to exit unless you want to be here with us.
Actually, Corporals, we should do a group picture.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right.
Let's come
One
on up.
photo.
We're going to have the council stand up and come in the back. And let's come on over here. We'll go single row, and let's have the council behind.
I'll just get this one. Okay, excuse me. Or you're gonna stand up?
You got a stool?
I want to be seen. I'm as tall as Jean.
Just wants to look as tall as the rest of us.
And they'll say, what happened?
But see, I have the tallest guy behind me.
time to smile.
Down in front.
Take this thing too. Okay, good job, gentlemen. All right. Yep. Have a great evening. Okay, see you. Good job.
Okay, next on our agenda, item B, proclamation of National Mentoring Month. Councilmember Maloney will present to Communities and Schools Executive Director Tracy Oster and Program Manager Jennifer Youngblood.
Thank you. I am very excited to present this proclamation, and I understand Tracy Oster, Executive Director, and Jennifer Youngblood, Program Manager of Communities and Schools, have already made their way up to the podium. They know the routine. So let me go ahead and read the proclamation, and then I'll come down and present it to you. I gotta get my glasses on, hold on. Whereas the future of Federal Way rests on the shoulders of our youth, and whereas educated, confident, and nurtured children will give rise to a stronger city, and whereas mentoring matches a child with a caring, responsible adult to build confidence, stability, and to provide guidance and direction, and whereas research shows that mentoring has a beneficial and long-term impact on young people by increasing attendance at school, improving rates of high school graduation, and decreasing involvement with drugs, alcohol, and violent behaviors. And whereas January has been designated as National Mentoring Month, calling on adults across America to become involved with mentoring programs, and now therefore, we, the undersigned Mayor and City Council of the City of Federal Way, do hereby proclaim January 2015 as Mentoring Month in the City of Federal Way, and call upon the people of the city to recognize the importance of mentoring and to look for opportunities to serve as mentors in their communities. Signed this 6th day of January 2015, Federal Way Mayor and City Council.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Maloney. Thank you very much to the full council and to Mayor Farrell as well. We're glad to be back here again this year for National Mentoring Month. I think this is the 4th year that we've been here. I think all of you guys know me, but for those who don't, my name is Tracy Oster. I'm Executive Director with Communities and Schools at Federal Way, and we have a school-based mentoring program here. We match caring adults with students in the schools. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about our program and kind of what we've been doing and why we believe that mentoring is so important. We really appreciate this opportunity to recognize our mentors. The founder of Communities and Schools, his name was Bill Milliken, and a quote that that is attributed to him is, "It's relationships that change kids, not programs." And mentoring really embodies that belief. We know that there are many benefits to mentoring, some of which were named in the proclamation that Councilmember Maloney read. But there are some kids that are kind of on that brink of making those decisions, whether to stay on the right path and stay in school, or maybe make decisions that maybe they may end up in situations that they can't be as successful. And having a mentor, a caring adult, really can be that person that steers them in that direction. Mentoring is a proven intervention for dropping out. It does many of the benefits include increased higher graduation rates, healthier relationships and lifestyles, better attitude about school, enhanced self-esteem and self-confidence, improved behavior, which actually carries on to improved behavior at home, improved interpersonal skills, and a decreased likelihood of initiating drug and alcohol use. All of those things, which we just saw part of our amazing police force and keeping these kids on the right path and away from having to be part of that system is something that mentoring can be part of. So I think many of you have heard this story, but 8 years ago we started the mentoring program here in Federal Way, and we had 10 mentors and 10 students. This year we have 110 students matched at 14 different schools. Over the years it kind of fluctuates. I know you guys were talking about Weyerhaeuser before, and we lost quite a few mentors from Weyerhaeuser, and so right now we're down a little bit. But still, to have that kind of growth and that kind of commitment from our community, from our volunteers that commit to meeting with their student 1 hour, 1 day a week. And National Mentoring Month gives us the opportunity not just to recognize our mentors, but to recognize all of us that have a mentoring relationship with a child, with a youth. Many of you might be in a program, or you might just do it in an informal way, but whatever you do, making that commitment to be that caring adult for that youth is such an important commitment to make, and so important to them. So I want to tell you, at the end of the year, we ask our mentors and our students, is this important to you? Do you want to keep going? That kind of thing. And here are some of the quotes from some of our students. One student said about his mentor, "You made me see how bad my grades are and how serious it all is, but you did it in such a way that didn't upset me, and I'm going to work harder in my classes." Another student said, "You're more than a mentor to me. You're a friend, a brother, a dad, anything you can think of, and I just want to say thank you." And then one more, a student said, "Thank you so much for getting through all my problems and helping me deal with all the things that happen at home." So just having, being able to say those things and share those things with somebody who isn't necessarily your parent or your teacher is something the kids really appreciate. This is a really exciting year for communities and schools. We've had a major expansion this year. We were in 3 schools last year with our school outreach coordinators. This year we're in 10. So the need for mentors is really important. We really want to increase those numbers and be able to serve more kids at each of those schools. So if you're interested, if you want to volunteer to be a mentor, or if there's an opportunity that we could come to your place of business or your place of worship and recruit mentors, we would love to have that opportunity. There's flyers at the table that have our contact information on it. Please feel free to go hold of us. You can also check out our Facebook page and our website. We have some really great stories. Jennifer's really good at putting stories on Facebook about what's going on with our mentoring program. And I'd really love to be here next year and stand in front of you and say we have 210 kids in our program. So thank you again.
Well, Jennifer and Tracy, thank you so much for the work you do every day on behalf of those kids. And I think Councilmember Moore wanted to say something.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. And Tracy, I have no doubt that you will be back here next year letting us know that you have 210 students. But clearly the results that you've just shared with us show the impact that you've made in students' lives. And it's the staff that's behind that, it's the mentors that are behind that, and Federal Way is lucky to have such an organization in its city. Having worked in a school setting, having worked with the students that are hard to reach sometimes, I've seen how important it really is to have that special relationship because it does work. As I've been through it myself in a unique way through the AmeriCorps program. So just wanted to take the time to say thank you and just look forward to continue to work together to make an impact for all the students in the Federal Way School District. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Moore, and then Councilmember Maloney.
Yeah, thank you. The 210, that's a lot of pressure. You can do it, though, if anyone can. Yeah, I just, this is kind of personal to me because I was on the board of directors for communities and schools for a while with Councilman Duclos. And it had an impact in my life just being on the board, and because I know that the work and the heart that you all put into it, it's not only, of course, about communities and schools, it's about mentoring and the impact of that on our youth. And so I appreciate that, and I'm really happy that we were able to set this month aside for that type of program. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Councilmember Duclos.
Yeah, nice to see you again. Actually, this is a special delight for me because I was one of the people that helped bring communities and schools to this city and help get it started. It had been tried twice or 3 times before and failed, but we did it right when we got together. Bob Robowski and I worked with others to bring it in. We worked with through the chamber actually to bring it in here, and it was part of a chamber program for a long time, and that gave you the stability that was needed. And what you have done to that program, Tracy, I remember hiring you.
That's right.
It's just amazing, and I want to thank you so much, and all of the volunteers that work to help our kids be successful in school. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any other? Okay. Thank you so much for the work you do.
Thank you.
See you next year.
Yes.
All right. Okay, next we've got a proclamation regarding Human Traffic Awareness Month. The Deputy Mayor will present to the Federal Way Coalition Against Human Trafficking Community Relations Director Diane Zorro.
Okay, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to have a role in this presentation of the proclamation. And I see we have not one but two representatives of the Coalition Against Trafficking, so I'm delighted to have both of you here. And I will be reading the proclamation, and then we'll bring it up to present it to you, and would anticipate and hope that you could say a few words, each of you, if possible. All right. Whereas human trafficking is a modern-day slavery and involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to exploit a person for involuntary servitude, labor, and community sex acts, commercial sex acts, and whereas trafficking victims can be women or men, boys or girls, U.S. citizens or foreign nationals, and whereas the average age a girl enters the commercial trafficking trade is 12 to 14 years old, while for boys 11 to 13 years of age. And whereas each year as many as 100,000 to 300,000 American children are at risk of being trafficked in the United States. And whereas traffickers may target young victims through social media websites, telephone chat lines, shopping malls, and after-school programs. And whereas after drug dealing, human trafficking is tied with the illegal arms industry as the second largest criminal industry in the world today and the fastest growing. And now therefore we, the undersigned mayor and city council of the city of Federal Way, do hereby proclaim January 2015 as Human Trafficking Awareness Month in the city of Federal Way, and call upon the people of the city to support this observance by helping to educate residents about human trafficking in our city as well as across America and around the world. And it's signed the 6th day of January 2015 by the Federal Way Mayor and City Council.
Thank you, Mayor Farrell and council members, for signing the Human Trafficking Awareness Proclamation in your support of ending human trafficking, especially here in our city and in our county. As you've said, my name is Diane Zorro, and I'm the Community Relations Director of the Federal Way Coalition Against Trafficking, an initiative of Washington Engage. FedCat, as we are known, is one of 8 coalitions ranging from Whatcom to Thurston counties, established with a mission to prevent human trafficking statewide. While many efforts are directed to victims of human trafficking to identify and restore them, far fewer are devoted to protecting the vulnerable from becoming a victim. That is our primary goal. FedCat is a community organization that was formed in September 2011. We were the first of the 8 coalitions that I mentioned earlier. We partner with our local law enforcement, service organizations, the school district, and communities in schools. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of the mentoring and these youth having a trusted adult in their lives. By uniting together, we are able to increase our impact. Our efforts focus on these 4 strategies. First, through collaborative efforts, we raise awareness about human trafficking in our community and in our state. Most people are uninformed that it is indeed in our backyard. We also endeavor to move people from awareness to taking action to prevent it and provide a variety of ways for people to engage. Secondly, we work hard to protect our youth from becoming a victim of sex trafficking, knowing that traffickers prey on our kids. We are partnering with our middle schools and high schools to train youth to recognize the tactics of traffickers. Our training program also covers the dangers of pornography and unsafe social media usage. It is our hope that the youth trafficking prevention program will also deter youth from becoming potential buyers. Thirdly, we advocate for policy changes in both the public and private sectors to prevent trafficking. We receive direct assistance from Washington Engage to increase awareness of needed policy implementations. And lastly, we raise awareness on the root causes of human trafficking. Through various methods, we educate the public to shift to a victim-centered perspective that targets the perpetrators, both the traffickers and buyers. Thank you again for your support and for signing the proclamation. And this is Brenda Oliver, our Executive Director.
Yes, Mayor Farrell and Council, thank you very much for having us and for all of your support, as well as the Police Department. And I think it's only appropriate that we share this month with communities and schools. They've been an amazing partner with us. We worked on our business plan this year, and our goal was to reach all of the 8th grade students because, as was mentioned, the average age is between 12 and 13. They have graciously agreed to work with us, and with their new coordinators within the schools, they're going to help us reach all of the 8th graders this year. So we're very excited about that partnership, and it's been ongoing, so we're very fortunate. And as Diane said, our goal is prevention through education. Even though it's not just students, we need to reach the larger community, that being parents, businesses. And so I'm here to do a plug for our 4th annual forum, which will be held right here Thursday night from 7 to 9. And we're very excited that our police department has been very involved, and Mayor Farrow as well, in an Ending Demand campaign, which is being held, orchestrated through the King County Prosecutor's Office. And I'm not going to tell you all the details because we really want to see the community here. And not only, and I just want to read this from our flyer, but it says sexual exploitation is frequently and inadequately labeled as a women's issue. However, we believe that all people have a role to play in ending human trafficking and sexual exploitation. It's essential for men, especially, to play a primary role in the solution to this problem. Violence against women is a human rights issue. In addition to the enforcement of laws regarding people who buy sex, social change and shift in cultural norms are needed to end the demand of commercial sexual exploitation. And I know statistics were given earlier, but on an average, there's an estimated 300 to 500 prostituted children in King County a night. The average age, as they said, entry into prostitution is 12 to 13 years old, and I think a statistic that's staggering is in King County alone, an estimated 27,000 men are actively soliciting sex online on over 100 websites, and that includes minors as well. So again, I thank you for your support for this proclamation, and just really for all the city and the community has done for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you. Thank you, Diane. Appreciate your work. So that's this Thursday, 7 p.m. here at the council chambers. We'll see you there. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, now moving on to my emerging issues and report. We've got one of the things we're really proud of, Detective Benjard and Pauline Freund, come on up. We've got a great police force, a great prosecution team, and we actually even have a dedicated prosecutor that does nothing but domestic violence offenses. And we've got Detective Benjard present, and one of the things I was made aware, I went to a regional King County coalition against domestic violence, and was joined by Councilmember Susan Honda. This was back in December, and well, it seems like a long time ago now. And Federal Way received special recognition. In fact, my good friend David Martin, who heads up that unit for the King County Prosecutor's Office for all felony and misdemeanor prosecutions in King County, called me up and he said, "You want to be at this meeting in downtown at the King County Courthouse with King County Prosecutor Dan Satterberg, because Federal Way is going to be getting special recognition for the work that they have been doing." And it was a broad coalition of victim advocates, all kinds of folks, Dawn and people on many sides of the equation. It was a big round table, and they were giving Federal Way special kudos to the trainings that had been done, to our officers in regard to awareness. So I don't want to steal all your thunder, Pauline and Detective Benjer, but I could just tell you, as mayor, I was really, and I know Councilmember Hondo was there, seated across the table from each other, but to have Dan Satterberg spend 10, 15 minutes talking about how important Federal Way's efforts in this effort are to confront domestic violence was just very, it was great to see. So with that, I'll kick it over to you. And would you tell us a little bit about why we got that recognition and what we've been doing?
Thank you. And Mayor Farrell, thank you so much for all of your support for domestic violence issues. It means the world to us and the council. My name's Pauline Freund. I'm the domestic violence prosecutor for the city. Back in August, Detective Benjert and I had an opportunity to go to the National Strangulation Institute, which sounds like one fun week, I know. But it was fascinating, and we learned so much. And one of our big takeaways from that is a new protocol that we are going to start in Federal Way, which I'll talk about in a minute. But as part of that also, we took the knowledge that we gained over that week and did a training for the entire Federal Way police force on strangulation, domestic violence reporting, report taking, just fine-tuning everything that our officers already do so well, and taking it up to the next level. And I'll let Detective Benjert talk a little bit more about the training that we did.
So the training we did, I am the detective that files all the domestic violence cases for Federal Way. And we trained our officers to really look at strangulation in a different way, because what we learned when we went to the training is, and I realized how much I did not know about strangulation, is that a lot of the injuries are not visible, and just how dangerous it is. And a lot of these cases were being filed as misdemeanors when in fact they should have been felonies. So we trained our officers on how to take a very detailed statement, because how critical it is, that contact with that victim, the initial contact, and photos, and to really listen to the victim to see what their injuries were, even if they may not be visible. Number one, to get them the proper medical help that they need, but also to make sure that that case is filed appropriately, and if it's a felony, it needs to be a felony instead of a misdemeanor.
And to further that end, the new protocol that we're starting in Federal Way this month is that when officers are responding to a call and there's an allegation of strangulation, regardless of whether there are injuries, regardless of whether the victim asks to have be checked out by medical personnel, officers will call for that medical backup. This does two things. It allows evidence collection for us as prosecutors and police, and it also allows an opportunity to identify those victims who are most at risk from the more subtle signs of strangulation. One other person who went to the training with us is Andy Foley, who is the education director for the emergency room at St. Francis Hospital. She trained the entire St. Francis emergency department in response to strangulation as well. So this is going from every angle we're going at it. They went back and trained all of South King Fire and Rescue. So they are all trained now in how to assess victims of domestic violence and those who really do need medical follow-up. And we also get free expert witnesses, so that's kind of a side bonus for us. But we're hoping this way to save lives, to have more successful prosecutions, and keep fighting domestic violence. And I just want to call out a few other people. Alex Sheehan, who is the domestic violence probation officer for the city. Kathy Williams, who's our domestic violence victim liaison and advocate. Janet Chance, who is with the CCR ADV, who run the Domestic Violence Victims Impact Panel, and she's a victims advocate. And they've been very active and members of the Domestic Violence Task Force.
Well, thank you both for your work. And I just want to say that, so much has been done. I probably, in the 19 years I was a prosecutor, probably half that time was doing the work that Pauline is doing now, which is focused on domestic violence. And I remember when the governor signed the added piece of legislature that made strangulation, that singled out strangulation and moved it to an assault in the second degree, which is a felony. Oftentimes, if you didn't have that serious and substantial bodily injury, like a broken arm or a broken eye socket or something like that, it would be filed as a misdemeanor, and there was a recognition of how serious that is. But Detective Benjamin and Pauline, can you just explain very briefly, from a practical standpoint, when the officers realize that a felony occurred versus a misdemeanor, what does that mean in regard to our response and what happens next?
I'll let Detective Bender take that one.
If the case stays on a misdemeanor level, it stays completely with the officer. So they will conduct the entire investigation from beginning to end. If it meets the felony level, they will do the initial investigation, get statements, photos. I mean, they are the first on scene. They will collect everything, talk to people, get witness statements, and then the case will be referred to a detective, most likely me. And then I will take the case and I will look at it and, number one, verify that, yes, this meets the filing standards to be a felony. And then I will complete any additional work that I feel is needed before that case goes to the prosecutor's office. So.
And then you work up a felony and then provide it to the prosecutor's office?
Yes, and if the suspect involved in that case is in custody, I have 72 hours to get that case to the prosecutor's office to make sure that they stay in jail.
And what's so, it's sometimes it's easy to sort of gloss over some of the stuff, but what happens is you look into all that history and we're literally saving lives in this process.
Yes, and we've, since the training, it's been, the officers have really responded. Not that they weren't doing good work before, because they were, but, combining the training with the prosecutor's office to kind of help explain this is why we need certain things and to let them know what to look for, because strangulation is very difficult. A lot of the injuries are just not visible, so it can be difficult. But they've responded really well, and we're getting a lot of great cases.
Well, thank you so much for the work you do. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, please. Yes. Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. I'd like to thank our speakers for their work tonight, and it's been my pleasure to serve on the King County Domestic Violence Task Force as a representative from the Suburban Cities Association, and I also serve on the Federal Way Domestic Violence Task Force. But Janet Chance, if she could stand up, she's our leader here in Federal Way, and she does, I just want to tell this one story. About 2 months ago, I received a phone call one morning from a citizen here in Federal Way, or an email, and she asked for help for a family member who was a victim of domestic violence. And I sent out an email to Janet and to the rest of the Federal Way Task Force, and within an hour I had a lot of help. So I let the citizen know, and by that afternoon they were receiving help for domestic violence. And it's just an awesome group of people to work with. They see this thing happen every single day, and I don't, but I hear the stories, and it's just awesome to work with these people. So thank you, Janet.
Thank you. Okay, John, while you're making your way to the podium, as many folks as you can all see behind me, we've got a new look in our city. These letters here used to be sort of a silver look along with our emblem, and we had at our last city council meeting in December, we had State Representative Linda Kochmar, former mayor and council member, and she was in the back of the room, and when we all got back there for the reception for Senator Ide, she says, "I can't see those letters." And I turned and I looked, and then coincidentally I was having breakfast with a friend just a few weeks ago, and the person said, "Hey, what's that cloud behind you? I can't make out what that thing is behind you." Well, now you can, and I want to make sure I especially thank John Hutton and our Parks Director, the Deputy Parks Director, Steve Eichert, and Jay Crutchett from Extreme Graphics. And while this may look brand new, we used the existing letters, and that's essentially a cover. So for incredibly, probably just a couple $100, we got a brand new look and feel for our chambers. So I thought it would make a much more distinctive look, and so thank you for getting on that.
Thank you.
I'd also like to thank Steve Eichert, the Historical Society, we finally now have the placard next to our historic photo that was recovered from Brook Lake earlier this year, and it gives the story. So maybe after the meeting or some other time, come on up, and again, I'd like to thank the Historical Society for all the work they did in finding the information out about that archive and its storied history in our community. And again, that picture was buried inside the walls of the Brook Lake Community Center for decades until it was recovered by our folks after it was donated. So now we'll turn it over to John Hutton to give us a report on the holiday events, recognition of employees for the tree lighting and frozen movie nights and the Jingle Bell Brunch. So John.
Great. Thank you very much, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Burbidge, and members of the City Council. As you probably remember, we had a very busy holiday season. We did a lot of fun themed events around the holidays, and I'd like to give you a brief recap of those. They were all tremendously successful in their own rights, and putting them together was kind of amazing accomplishments. So the first of these was our annual Jingle Bell Brunch. It was another rousing success. We had Councilmember Honda there and Mayor Farrell with their families, and I think they had a great time. Dumas Bay Center came in and did the cooking for us, provided a great brunch at that event. Santa Claus was there along with Mrs. Claus, and everybody had a great time. Santa stuck around for pictures. We were entertained by the Thomas Jefferson drumline and a dance group. It was a great event, and that was the first of our holiday events. The second of these happened on the same day, and that was our tree lighting that you were all a part of. That was an unbelievable success. The first time we've ever done it at Town Square Park. Could not really have gone any better. We got a real break from the weather. It was perfect weather that evening, cool and crisp. The tree was fantastic. And a lot of great things happened. We had some great talented groups out there singing for us, including Harmony Kings, Jet Cities Chorus, and the Honor Choir from Brigadoon Elementary, who just did a great job. Kind of stole the show. They were fantastic. And so that was a great night. We had great refreshments again from Dumas Bay Center and Chef Scott and his group with his magical concoction of hot chocolate that nobody can describe what's really in it, but I know what the secret ingredient is. For a price, I'll tell you what that is. But it is a secret. So we also had Desna Soccer Club come out and do fresh brewed Russian tea, hot tea that evening. So that was just a terrific evening and a great way to start off the holiday season with those two events. Following that, we did a first-time event in Federal Way, and it was really cool. It was called Cookies with Mrs. Claus. And it was tremendously successful with 54 children and well over 100 people in attendance. Some of the most grateful moms you've ever met who were thrilled because the kids got to be a little wild with the frosting and the sprinkles in our kitchen rather than theirs. So they were extremely happy that we let those kids kind of go wild. And one of our key employees, a part-time employee who's here this evening, and I'll be talking about her a little bit more, she channeled her inner Mrs. Claus, her alter ego, and she was Mrs. Claus for that event and just knocked it out of the park. Kids and parents all are ready to sign up for next year. We told them you gotta wait until we get it in the catalog. So, but we are gonna blow that event out again and again. That's just a tremendously successful event and a great theme, and everybody had a great time. They get to decorate their own sugar cookies. All the cookies were donated. Melinda is a pit bull on your pant leg when it comes to donations. She is great about getting businesses to jump in and sponsor and help. And she has just done a great job. So I want to call her out for some special recognition tonight. Along with Cody Geddes, who wore two hats for a while. One was Arts and Special Events Coordinator. He's transitioned over and got a promotion to a recreation supervisor, and he's also running athletics. He was doing both of these things at the same time along with Melinda and just killed all these events, just did a fantastic job. And last but not least, as Mayor Farrell mentioned, we showed our first indoor movie at the Federal Way Community Center, and that was Frozen. And it was a really good show. We had over 250 kids, had a great time. Once again, Dumas Bay came in with the special hot chocolate, and we had popcorn for everybody. It was a great show. Again, 250 people is a big show. It didn't feel like as many people as we had at the park, but again, it was holiday time, and there are a lot of demands on people's time, but 250 is a big event in its own. None of these events could have been possible without some key people that I'd like to recognize this evening. And so those people Some of them are here. I mentioned earlier Recreation Supervisor Cody Geddes, who's just done a great job. Cody, could you stand up, please? And next to him is Mrs. Claus, otherwise known as Melinda Blevins. She has just done a fantastic job on every event, starting with, and probably even before that, but Touch a Truck. She invented Touch a Truck for our community. It may have been invented somewhere else, but we're going to claim credit with Melinda. And that event drew 1,200 people at the first time ever at the new, at the site of the Future Pack. So that was just an amazing event, and she has brought a real energy, talent, and an eye for special events. And really has helped Cody out and our whole department. It really put us in a great light. Along with them, I'd like to call out a couple of special volunteers. This family of volunteers, they are the Robbins family, and they consist of Mom Yolanda, older sister Brianna, and younger sister Crystal. They have literally volunteered at every event for about 15 years that we've run. Literally every single event, and they were front and center at all 4 of these events. They are just amazingly positive, cool people. They live right here in our community, and they are just a testament to how great the people in Federal Way are. And we're very fortunate to have them. And I'd also like to call out some other special volunteers that worked on Frozen, including Councilmember Honda, who helped us run our costume contest, judges John Fairbanks and Shelley Pauls, who's a committed community member who really helped get the word out on Facebook, did a great job for us, brings an energy much like Tim Johnson's, like a hummingbird on Mountain Dew. So she really brings it. So we really appreciate all that help from all of those people. And we just had a great holiday season and getting ready to start off the new year, and happy to talk about any of those events or anything else you might have. But I definitely would like to thank Cody and Melinda, and also almost forgot to mention our parks maintenance crews, who just did a great job of decorating that tree. An ingenious method of not only lighting the tree with a generator, but protecting that against any ill intent that might want to steal that generator. They made it pretty much impossible to steal that with some real creativity out there. And so we're real happy with their efforts. So.
Well, John, Cody, Melinda, and everyone else, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I have to tell you, at the tree lighting, I was really stunned when and I had been out there and you know, had been watching this thing go up, and I know that a lot of us were going out there periodically and looking to see as it was going up, and you know, I was, when the lights finally went on, they had this really cool arm that we lifted. That I got to lift, that turned on the lights, and I think all of us kind of jaws sort of dropped when it went on, because it just looks stunning. In fact, if you want to take a look at it, we've got a copy in the a blow up here in my back office, and you can actually probably even see it on our website. We've got a picture there. It was just a phenomenal event, and something that, you know, we had 500 people there. Next year we want 1,000. So we've got all kinds of plans for next year, and John and I were even just talking earlier today about our plans and how we're going to make it even better. So Cody and Melinda, I'll send the memo tomorrow. Just kidding.
1,100, Cody and Melinda.
Exactly. Yeah. Susan said he's not kidding. All right. Thanks, you guys. Good work, John. Thank you very much. Great work. Okay, now as we're moving on to the Performing Arts and Conference Center update, we've got a multiple prong. You know, I want to let the public know, but also the council. We sent out an email previously that gave a status update preliminarily prior to this, but we've been working very assiduously for the past, 6 months since final approval of the Performing Arts and Conference Center on June 3rd. With that unanimous vote, but there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes that I want to make sure that we bring the community up to speed on. So we're going to hear first from Will Appleton, our project director. He'll be speaking about the delivery method for the Performing Arts and Conference Center, and he'll explain that. Then we're going to talk about new market tax credit applications, and the professor, Adea Rawalu, our finance director, will give that presentation, and then Tim Johnson will be giving an update in regard to something called the Novogradac Conference. But I also want to talk about we had a meeting before this one talking about the visioning process for the newly acquired Target property, and we've been talking about Town Center 1, 2, and 3. I want to explain to everybody that when we talk about Town Center 1, 2, and 3, Town Center 1, am I stealing your PowerPoint here? Well, I will. Okay.
Proceed.
All right. So Town Center 1 is the Performing Arts and Conference Center, and that has its own discrete working group within the city where the chief of staff and Will and people, interdisciplinary groups are working on that. They meet regularly. In fact, before our management team on Mondays, usually at about, I believe, 8:30 or 9 a.m. every Monday. And then, throughout the week as need requires. Town Center 2 is our Town Square Park that we're working on right now to finalize what will be the final version of that park, which once we get it approved, scheduled for final approval hopefully this spring, to open in its final and completed version by next summer of 2016. Town Center 3, also a discrete working group, is the Target property, which is immediately adjacent to and immediately to the east of the Performing Arts and Conference Center. That's 7.5 acres. So now when we're talking about Town Center 1, 2, and 3, you know what we're referring to. That being said, Will Appleton, would you, the floor is yours, sir.
My pleasure. Good evening, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Burbidge, and council members. I am excited to be able to present to you a project update on the PAC tonight. I'm excited about this project. It's even made me more excited with the trifecta that the mayor has just described to you, being Town Centers 1, 2, and 3. So this is really turning out to be something that's going to be great for the city of Federal Way and its citizens. While I am the director of the PAC, I would like to just expand a little bit on what the mayor pointed out, that we do have a great team that has been assembled and meets every week for this project. And I'd just like to point out who that is, that team, and for the citizens at home as well. It's composed of the Director of Public Works, Marwan Salom, Tim Johnson, the Director of Economic Development, Ade Arwula, Professor of Finance. We also have Amy Jo Pearsall, our legal attorney and the city attorney. Jeff Watson, CDBG manager, Steve Eichard, and also John Hutton from Parks, the director of Parks, and Brian Wilson, chief of staff. So really, this project is backstopped by a very sound, seasoned group, and hats off to the mayor for putting that team together to assist me with this. With that said, I'd like to start off and talk a little bit about where we've been on the Performing Arts Center and where we are headed. Oh, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Oh. Okay, there we go. In 2014, we had some major accomplishments associated with this project. We essentially saw the completion of the site layout, completion of architectural drawings. Many of the structural drawings, mechanical drawings, and electrical drawings have also been completed. Initial work on the theater and the audiovisual components of the PAC have been completed. Site civil drawings have been essentially completed, and also landscaping renderings. Now, when I say completed, these have been brought to completion to a design development level. So that falls short of construction-ready documents, which is the next step that we'll be proceeding to in 2015, followed by construction. Some other aspects of the project that we've been working on in 2014 include, we've also been looking at identifying who will be the PAC director. The Federal Way Coalition of Performing Arts has been working tirelessly at generating donations, private donations for this facility. And we've also been working on naming rights in 2014. So all of those should come to fruition in 2015. Additionally, in 2014, we've completed land use as well as the SEPA documentation for this project. So moving forward, what we have before us is really to identify the delivery method that we're going to use to actually construct the PAC. And right now, we're focused on two methods. The first one that we're going to be pursuing, or we are pursuing actively, is the General Contractor Construction Manager, GCCM method. That application was submitted in early January 2nd. We'll be making a presentation on the 22nd, and following that presentation, my expectation is we'll be using that as the method to generate the construction documents and then move this project into a construction phase in fall of 2015. If for some reason that proposed method is rejected, we can follow that same path through a design bid build. So we have a fallback position on our delivery method at this point. If we move forward with the GCCM model, the design team, L&M architects will remain the same. This includes all of the subcontractors that have been working for us up to this point. And so that team, as well as the civil engineer, will remain intact. And in fact, they will be ready to proceed forward with construction documents in an early February timeframe. What we are doing right now is we're looking for a project management consultant to help out with the GCCM aspect of this delivery method. That's to be determined. Actually, I will be conducting interviews this Thursday and selecting a firm shortly thereafter so that when we make the presentation in Olympia to the project review board, they will be part of our team at that point. And under this delivery method, it's anticipated that we will begin construction in fall of 2015. The contractor, or in this case, the GCCM, which is your general contractor construction manager, would be yet to be determined. So just a brief overview of the schedule. We'll be beginning construction documents in early February. We'll be selecting a GCCM, or essentially a contractor, in an early February timeframe as well. That process actually is pseudo-competitive, so there are competitive elements to it, but we'll be basically looking at a number of contractors asking for requests for proposals, and then going through a selection process and selecting the contractor that we'll move forward with under a GCCM model. Then in July, we would expect to come up with a number that's called the maximum allowable construction cost. This is similar to a guaranteed maximum price, which you've heard of in the past. It's slightly different than that, but it's essentially a negotiation that occurs with the contractor to establish what the cost of the performing arts facility will be to construct. That negotiation will take place in July, just about the time that we have maybe 90% or thereabouts on the construction documents. We would expect to have 100% design documents in an August timeframe and begin construction in a fall timeframe, September to October. With respect to budget, just very briefly, while we've had a slight pause in the progress of this project, with respect to the budget, it hasn't really had any impact to it thus far. My understanding in my discussions with the contractors, with the designers and the developers to this point is that we're still on budget. When we look at the total project cost of the $32.75 million, we're still falling within that at this point in time. So I'm happy to report that. So with that kind of concludes my portion of this presentation. But again, I'd like to say that I'm encouraged by this, and I'm excited that in 2015 we're going to see construction.
Council, any questions on this portion? Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A slide back or two in terms of the construction contractor.
Yes.
Item number 3. What's the criteria that you're using to choose and identify your choices and recommendations to the council of who to pick?
So essentially, when they submit an RFQ, what they'll be providing is their cost. The contractor provides their cost for the Division I documents, X number of dollars that they would anticipate. They also present a profit margin, essentially, their overhead number. So they might come in and say, we want to make 3% on this project. And then in addition to that, so those are really the very quantitative things that we can look at. And then there are more of the qualitative. what are your qualifications, how many projects have you completed, and we blend those two together and essentially make a determination of who we're going to select. So it's not always prudent to select the contractor who says they only want 1% profit on the project, while likewise it may not be prudent to select the one that wants 9. So those are essentially the factors that we look at when we evaluate the RFQs.
And as a follow-up to that, looking at that deeper, do you guys look at how the hiring happens? If a company looks at hiring locally, gets
Good question.
Labor organizations involved, those type of things. I mean, yeah.
Under the GCCM model, the contractor is required to bid the project. So the contractor works for us, and the contractor may self-perform up to 30% of the work. The contractor still has to successfully bid that 30% of work, but they're able to self-perform it. The balance of the work, the contractor is responsible to bid that out to subs competitively. So whether or not a local company would be able to be used during the construction of the PAC would depend upon how competitive they are and responsible they are with respect to bidding.
It's certainly something that we're looking at, certainly something that whenever we talk about this, I want to make sure that we're making sure we're using those best practices. All right, Councilmember Honda.
Will the hotel be started at the same time as the PAC?
At this point, this presentation is focused solely on the Performing Art and Conference Center. The hotel piece of this project, which you'd seen earlier, has been sidelined until the Town Center 3 component can take that into consideration. There were a lot of concerns expressed that I was hearing and that were being conveyed to me about the hotel that was initially proposed in terms of the scope and the scale of it, the branding of it, the location of it, the connectivity of it, the lack of conference rooms, these sorts of things. And so those things, in combination with the fact that in November, Town Center 3 was announced, or we became aware of this grander plan, we felt it very prudent to take that off the table, focus on the PAC, and then allow Town Center 3 and that development to really see how that hotel best fits in the scheme of things. So I think it's coming, not on the same schedule as the PAC.
There was a concern that the quality was not going to be there. The term that kept coming up was 4-story stick hotel, that was not going to be of the caliber that I think that the council had envisioned, and that would be complementary, and that would not be complementary to facilitate that. And a lot of that had to do with placement. Once we purchased the target site, it does open up that field to a degree, and that's why it may make a lot of sense. It does make a lot of sense, and we talked about that tonight, about including that in the RFP process for the Town Center 3 project. So we want to make sure that, especially for conferences, that the product we get at that location is going to be conducive to conferences, and it's going to be, hooked in, and that whether it's on the back. Right now, it's the hotel that we have currently discussed is on the back side, essentially looking out onto the loading dock of the Performing Arts Conference Center. I think that this will give us an opportunity to really make sure that we have the correct hotelier in place for the future.
After the Target property was purchased, there was some discussion about perhaps moving the location of the PAC a little bit because there is more space. Has that occurred, or?
No, that has not occurred, although that is in play. So essentially, we've had a pause between design development and starting the construction-ready documents. And immediately prior to starting the construction-ready documents, we'll be addressing some of those specific issues of, can we shift things slightly? How can we optimize what we have in front of us, given Town Center 3 and the added spaces, as the mayor pointed out, that may be available. without, of course, starting to consume it. So those things will be considered immediately prior to starting the construction documents.
But we'll certainly, obviously that's a conversation before we make a material change like that. It does give us an opportunity to where we're not, necessarily crammed in that corner of in the south western portion of that property to maybe come out a little bit. But I think that Will brings up a really good point that we don't want the exception to become the rule, or to move it so far that it takes over that property. So, but we'll keep you involved as those conversations and discussions go forward. Any other questions? All right. Will, thank you very much. Great job.
Thank you.
All right, and now it's on to the report on the new market tax credits from Madej.
Good evening, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Burbidge, and the council. It's a great pleasure comparing what we went through last year and where we are today. So I'm really pleased to report back to you. If you remember, last year we were working with just one CDE. So what we've done this year, since last year, we actually filed our application with 9 CDEs. What that means, we have better chance. That is the bottom line. And I think we're working with Traverse Kansas, Key Community Development Corporation, National Development Council. NDC was the only one that we were working with last year. Dudley Ventures, Chase Bank, Wells Fargo Bank, U.S. Bank, Bank of America, and Clearinghouse CDFI, which is where Tim came from. I think what this is, even though, yes, when you're making application to a third party, your faith depends on them, but having our application with 9 entities, I think has greatly improved our chances. Last year, NDC that we pitched our tent with did not even get any allocation. So since they didn't get any allocation, that means we're done. So there's a likelihood out of 9, even if we get 3 with allocation and we're able to get a piece here, a piece there, we have a better chance. Late last year, the council passed resolution creating the economic redevelopment zone, which I think that also will have a play to be able to identify the area where we are applying for funding to construct the park as a redevelopment zone. So I think thank you to the council for doing that. What we've done since last year, we're working with Mr. Tom Nelson at Cantor Taylor Nelson Everett and the Senior PC out of it's one of the major law firms in the area that specialize in new market tax credit. So they are leading us or helping us as we go along. And also, when you apply for any of this federal money, there's so many red tapes. Also, we're working with Novogradic, who is also a major player, major accounting firm that help account for and report all this new market tax credit. And I think Tim will be speaking a little bit more about that Novogradic program later. With those 9 entities that we're working with, we have spoken with a couple of the CDEs since we mailed the applications and plan to meet with some of them too. The conference is tail end of this year. Again, as trying to be spend the city's money very, very wisely, we could travel to go meet all these 9 entities. So we're going to one single place that all of them will be. Remember the 9 names that I ran through? Some of them are located, one of them is in Kansas, so we could travel to Kansas and make our presentation. We could go to LA, Minneapolis, but we're going to San Diego, where all of them will be. You know, I think that is a wise move to be able to present our project to them and make our project more accessible. There's indication that both myself and Tim were talking to one of the CDE last week, and she reemphasized that there's actually good indication that the federal government, the Treasury, will actually make the announcement sooner than they did last year. Last year, I think we didn't know until around, tail end of June. So there's a likelihood that sometimes in May or sooner, we may actually know which CDE is getting allocation. I think that is a good thing. Major difference between where we were last year and where we are now. I think, like I pointed out, we're working with 9 CDEs instead of 1. We're more knowledgeable about new market tax credit now than we were last year. And also park project at that time, I think like Mayor Farrell said, like Will also mentioned, the project is being managed by a group of people where we're challenging one another, asking some of the questions that the council themselves will ask. So we have, Community Development Director Larry, we have a team, we have Will, and we have all these people asking questions just to make sure it is done right, and we account for everything. We have a new market tax experienced staff on board. Team, I think, Team has a very long experience and very familiar with this project, and also very familiar with some of this CDE. I think that is also a plus for us. And again, we're going after these funding with all the tools we have in our arsenal. The mayor will be in California at the end of the month. So is the deputy, the chief of staff. So is Tim Johnson. So we're going there to go sell this project, to make sure that we have the best chance possible to get some of this funding. I mean, I think we didn't even do 10% of this last year. So we are moving on with this project. And the Novogradic conference at the end of the month, I'll let Tim speak a little bit more to that.
All right.
Council members, Tim Johnson. I guess I'm now the hummingbird on Mountain Dew. The Novogradic conference, Novogradic is named of an accounting firm, one of 2 major accounting firms in the United States that are focused on the specifics and the details of new market tax credits. Novogradic is a firm that we have engaged to be our new market tax credit accountants as we go through this. Let me share this with you. There's only 2 people that make money off of this, attorneys and accountants. And besides that, that's pretty much it. You need accountants and attorneys to get you through this process because it is complex and it is layered. And without them, you won't succeed. So when you start to see the process of what we have to go through, and I'm not going to show it to you because I don't want you to, your eyes to gloss over this evening, we will get to it. And if you want me to explain it to you at your retreat, I'll be more than happy to. But only at the end of the day. Only at the end of the day. Because there is a diagram to these things. And it's much more complex than what I try to elude city staff to understanding. Novogradic does 2 conferences. They're the only people in the nation that do the 2 conferences that bring both the CDEs, the community development entities, and the community development financial institutions, who are the organizations that are allowed by federal law, the U.S. Treasury, to apply for new market tax credits. These organizations get the tax credits through a very sophisticated application process. As they go through that process, they call on organizations like the City of Federal Way and say, do you have a project? In this particular case, last year you did. It was only NDC that you went to. But it is a numbers game, as Aday alluded to. And the more that you put in with, the more that your project, meaning the PAC, gets identified by these CDEs. So when they receive an award from the Treasury, meaning the award, the new market tax credits, then they have you in what is called a pipeline. Now, before I was even hired, I told the mayor and I told Brian Wilson, I said, I'll illustrate to you what I can do for you before even being hired. So I sat with Brian Wilson and Aday, and we wrote the pipeline applications. And they looked at me and I said, we're going to submit them to 9 or 10. And they looked at me like I was nuts. And I said, no, this is a numbers game and this is what you have to do. So we got them in. And so our application of a PAC went in. But it went in with a hook, council members. The hook is, and which is everybody is so excited about at the CDE, CDFI level, is that it will include a culinary arts institute. Mm-hmm. That not only creates jobs, but it also creates the opportunity of spinning that culinary arts institute and working in the community on nutritional levels. And that's why everybody's interested in talking with you. There are multiple performing arts centers that had tried to get into applications, and they were not exciting. They were not dynamic. You happen to have a very dynamic project here. And so they're interested in talking with you about this. So Novogradac offers the opportunity of having all these CDFIs and CDEs at one place at one time. And the best I can explain it to you is like speed dating. You go down there and you have basically one day and you have an elevator speech type of opportunity to present what your project is again to these folks, and they're looking at it and they're prioritizing your project compared to all the other projects in the nation at the same place and at the same time. The lovely thing that has been happening is since those applications were submitted, the pipeline application was submitted in August, the phone's been ringing off the hook from the CDEs, CDFIs. And we just recently had one this last week, which also suggested that because they were so enthusiastic about the project, that they had another CDE that we had not worked with, that they have not named to us, but they would like us to meet with when we go to San Diego. So what is happening here is a snowballing effect for us, and what I feel very comfortable in, and let me back up for a moment. I sit on the board of directors of one of the largest new market tax credit providers in the nation, the Clearinghouse CDFI. And in the period of time that I've been with that organization, almost 15 years, we've done $3.2 billion. $3.2 billion in new market tax credits. We can do this project here as well. I have to recuse myself off on the board, but I'm when we take the vote. But I must suggest to you that the Clearinghouse has our application. They've submitted it, and they're excited about this project moving forward. And because of that, they have the who's who of the CDFIs, because they are a for-profit organization. They have the who's who of other CDFIs, the major financial institutions and their community development financial institutions on their board. So while the mayor's there, he will meet with both the chair and the CEO of the Clearinghouse and be introduced to the other CDFIs. And it's all about introductions. It's about as close to getting on Wall Street and trying to get your bonds placed as I can possibly tell you. It's a complicated process. He will be very exhausted by the end of the day. I suspect by the time 5 to 6 o'clock rolls around, he will want to do nothing but see the pillow in the hotel room. But I think it's a very exciting time for us, and I expect that we'll come back from that conference and we'll have solution sets for where we're headed.
Okay, Councilmember Duclos.
Well, I'm going to take a little credit for this. Since I'm the one that mentioned new market tax credits, no one here on staff or on council ever had any experience with it. I had a lot of experience, not with the new market tax credit, but with the one set up for nonprofits, the low-income housing. Actually, not nonprofits, but set up for housing, and it's the low-income housing tax credit. Very, very similar, very highly competitive. The law firm we have is one of the best. We used it for every one of our projects, and MSC developed over $100 million worth of housing through the use of the low-income housing tax credits while I was there. And I think we got a good team this time, and I would be very surprised if we don't get an allocation.
Very good, thank you. Councilmember
Thank you, Mayor.
Rosselski.
Thank you, Professor and Tim, for the presentation. I just have a couple quick questions. I was really excited to see that we're going out for 9 CDEs. Like you said, it's a numbers game, and that's going to allow us a greater opportunity here. But I take it, you mentioned that the one called Clearinghouse CDFI has a very successful track record. I take it that the others, aside from NDC, the others have great track record as well, or do you know anything about that?
I certainly do. In the context of, if you noticed the list that Aday shared with you, the major financial institutions are also in the billion level. So when you look at the top 10 CDFIs, CDEs in the nation, you're looking at the financial institutions, you're looking at an organization called the Low Income Service Corporation, LISC, you're looking at another one called the Low Income Investment Fund, which only focuses on child care programs and educational institutes, which we can talk about later in terms of going to them and working with them, and then the clearinghouse. So you're looking at the top 10. We're looking at about 6 or 7 of those were on our list that accepted our applications, and so I'm pretty pleased with where we came in on this.
Okay, excellent, and thank you. And then one of the only other question I have is, if I remember right, we paid NDC $25,000 for their services. Do we have to open up further budget to expand that list here?
Well, that part of that contract, if I'm not incorrect, was on Section 108 Advice 2, and so it's a component of whether we want to embrace going forward a new market tax credit consultant. But I think where we're at right now is I don't think we need to proceed with that. I think we're far enough down the line. We understand, the team understands what the elements are. We have a tax credit attorney with us that's really good, and an accounting firm that'll get us to where we want to go.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Honda, Maloney, Councilmember Maloney, and then Councilmember Martin Moore.
Thank you. This is for you, Tim. The culinary school that you have proposed, when you first told me about that, I was a bit surprised. When you proposed that, did you know of the other culinary schools in the area and our competition? And will the manager of the PAC be in charge of the culinary school, or it's a completely different setup? Do we have to hire someone to
No, the
run
city's
that?
the city will not be required to hire somebody to do the culinary. We'll work with those organizations to see if they're interested in participating with us moving forward.
So if we don't have that as part of our program, then we won't qualify for funding?
You can qualify for funding, but I think it will reduce the opportunity for you to get funding, because that's one of the key components that the CDFIs are looking at.
Does this culinary school need to be open when the PAC opens in the very beginning?
It should be in close context to that. But the Culinary Institute can go, for example, into the Town Square 3 project, so that the actual classrooms can go there, and then they can work on the actual performance of the work at the PAC.
So the Performing Arts Center and Conference Center did not have a full kitchen last time I saw the plans.
I can turn that to Will, and he can answer that for you.
Has that been included now in the
Yes,
plans?
yes. The architect has been looking at putting in a full kitchen facility within the PAC.
Did that increase the cost of the PAC, or did we take something out to put that in?
It was an increase over the warming kitchen, yes, but that was also an item that had been potentially budgeted for, so that falls within the amount that the overall project is budgeted for, within the $32.7 million.
I think from my recollection, what we did is we made sure we had the grease trap and the infrastructure in place, and then it was just a matter of the equipment, which I think was probably a couple $100,000, right?
Correct.
Okay, just make sure we're all talking about the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't think we haven't made a final decision on that, is that correct?
No, we have not.
All right. we're not going to make any final decisions on anything until we talk to you guys about it. Councilmember Moore?
If I may.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember
That's,
Maloney.
that's okay. It's not a big deal.
Sorry.
Thank you, though.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Kelly Maloney. There's a lot of things going on right now, and it certainly is an exciting time for the city of Federal Way. And Tim, thank you. Thank you to the whole team of what's been happening with the performing arts. I know this has been really important to me and others around the community. And some of the things that I appreciate about this is the thoughtfulness and the strategy that's being carefully laid, which I think is really key. And what I also appreciate is the fact that you've told us the difference between what was done last time and today, and I think that's really critical. Moving on to my question, in this process, as we go to, as the mayor and staff go to California to pitch this, where does Patty Murray and Congressman Smith lie in this whole system? And then I have a follow-up question too.
Thank you. Councilman, I'll try to answer that question. Why the U.S. Treasury tries to keep Congress out of the decision-making process, it's almost impossible. And I'll just digress for a moment. When Senator Olympia Snowe was overseeing the Senate Finance Committee, her state was well endowed with new market tax credits. So we know that there was influence going on. But one of the key elements, and I want to address this with you, and I appreciate you asking this, is that I looked at the census tract of where we're in. We are in an eligible area. We would do ourselves better if we were in what is called a highly distressed area. Now, we've asked through the mayor's office if we couldn't contact Senator Murray's office to ask Treasury to look at a sub-census tract of where we're at, because what I believe happened was that we got caught in between the census. The 2010 census, it was the closure of those big box stores and the subsequent elements that occurred to Federal Way during the recession were not necessarily captured in the 2010 census. And because of that, we'd like to go back because we believe that you can actually be identified. Look, you bought 2 empty stores that were blighted. You've got surrounding stores that have been closed for a while. And we believe if you go back and look at that, you can actually, I know this sounds strange, but we can actually be probably addressed as a highly distressed area in a sub-census tract area. And so that's what we're asking them to do, and I think that I'm going to look at Chris Carroll, and I believe he's been working on that effort.
And then on a completely different tangent, same topic, you mentioned that we're going to have solutions right after the California trip. What does that mean exactly, if you can clarify that?
Yeah, I think the mayor can come back under the next council meeting with you and express to you who he's met with, the comfort level that the CDFIs, CDEs that he met with, what their opinions were, because they'll tell you right away. They have no hesitation. If they look at him and say, Mayor Pleasant next, then you know that you're not welcomed. If they elongate the conversation, which I believe they will with him, then you know that you're moving further up the pipeline on their priority list, and that's where you want to be, because when the announcements come out, you'll find out who you work with, and you need to get on the phone, and then from that point on, it's like a 60-day race to the finish. You have to start the process, show that you've got all of your paperwork in terms of permits, construction documents, everything ready to go, and then they're going to negotiate with you points and fees, and they're going to start the process of negotiating the contract out with you. And within 60 to 90 days from that point, then you're going to be back in here in front of you, and we're going to be signing a contract, if that's how it works.
Councilmember Maloney, and then Councilmember Duclos.
Thank you. Well, my comments actually are similar to Councilmember Honda's. I have been concerned from the beginning when I first heard about the culinary school, and I appreciate your comments tonight. We do need a hook, it sounds like, and that is, it sounds as if it could be an appropriate hook. But my concern has been the scope of the project, and I haven't heard much about scope yet. I know that you said there are still some things to figure out in regard to that, and how we partner maybe with the institutes that are out there already. But as soon as that's figured out, I would like to see a little bit more on that, because I feel as if it's a potential landmine if we don't get that figured out as quickly as possible, because if we do get new market tax credits contingent on having that, and we don't have it, then it could, in my mind, it could be significantly detrimental. So I just wanted to put it out there that
That's
is
putting it diplomatically, yes. Yeah.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm just concerned.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Councilmember Duclos.
Oh, I just wanted to ask, is there can we start working on some of these things in anticipation that we're going to get it, or we're going to have support down there? Are there some of the things that we can start working on now?
Could you explain further, such as?
Oh, I don't know, just you listed some things, and I was just wondering if we could, instead of waiting for that, could we start on some of the items that we need to be doing?
Could you do me a favor and refer? I'm getting old. I just celebrated a birthday
I'll call
yesterday,
you
and I
tomorrow.
won't tell you how old I am, but
Yeah, I'll call
I'm
you
starting to have senior moments now.
Okay, I'll call you tomorrow.
All right. Okay. Yes, Councilmember Sefadossin. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I like the idea of the culinary arts school. And if we're going to do that, I would really encourage that we partner with Fair Start. That gives opportunities for homeless and people at risk at training, and they have amazing food and at low cost. So I think that would be a great partnership if at all possible.
In response to that, it can't be for people who are making over $40,000 a year. It can't. It has to go for a targeted employment area of people who are unemployed,
Yeah.
living below poverty levels.
That's what Fair Start is.
Yes, it targets
So,
homeless
I'm
and...
saying it's somebody like that. We have to be involved with that. That's exactly right.
Okay, thank you.
That's good. All right. Council, any other questions? All right. So I think this is the longest emerging issues and report in history. Let's now turn our attention to council retreat, January 31st, scheduled at this time. Deputy Mayor Burbidge.
Thank you, Mayor Farrell. At this time, the retreat is tentatively scheduled for Saturday, January 31st at the Dumas Bay Center. And have we identified a specific time range of starting time?
Yeah, we would.
I haven't seen that
the
yet.
start time would be 9 a.m. The doors would open at 8:30. We'd have some light refreshments and
Right.
then lunch. But we're down. Oh, go ahead. Yes. So 9 o'clock.
And are you estimating an ending time at this point?
I would say in mid-afternoon.
Okay, so 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, depending.
Yeah.
3
Depends on
o'clock?
when we run out of gas.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
And air.
Okay, and we are certainly open to additional suggestions. We, of course, always have a long list of proposed topics for any retreat. It's going to be a matter of prioritizing. And we're always open to suggestions and input of a further nature. So would be happy to hear from anyone. Thank you.
Very good. Okay. So we'd love to have you there. It's a great time to really talk about the visioning process. So Martin Luther King Jr. events. Jeff Watson, if you could please approach. And while he's approaching and giving his presentation, we'll have a presentation from our Chief of Staff, Brian Wilson, regarding city entry signs with service clubs and the update on that, with Marwan on deck. Yes, sir. Jeff Watson, go.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of the council. I'm very pleased to be able to share with you tonight information about the upcoming Martin Luther King event. As you may be aware, the Diversity Commission, this is really their signature event during the year, and they work with a local high school. This year, the Diversity Commission and city staff are working with a group of really wonderful students at Decatur High School on this year's tribute to Martin Luther King. And the preparations are coming along really well. Just to share a couple of things with you, the students identified the theme of diversity for this year's event. The event is going to take place over the weekend of Martin Luther King's birthday. That Friday before the birthday holiday, the 16th, there will be assemblies at the high school. Then on Saturday from 10 until 2, there will be a food drive at Albertsons, Fred Meyer, Safeway, and Walmart. And those food drives will be handled by students from a number of the high schools in the community. On Monday the 19th, there's a community breakfast that's going to have some choir performances. That will be followed by the community event, which will include speakers. Those speakers include the mayor, council member Asefa Dawson, Dr. Andre Sims, who's the pastor at Christ the King Bible Fellowship, as well as Kedrick Glover, who is with the Puget Sound Educational Service and is the founder of a mentoring organization. There also is in the plans a memorial for Roger Freeman, and the details of that are still being worked out. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Council, any questions?
No questions, just could you send out a list, could you send those out on a dates and times?
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Absolutely.
it, thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, thank you, Jeff, appreciate it. All right, now we're going to get an update in regard to a city entry sign that our chief of staff, myself, and the service clubs have been working on. And Chief, take it away. And he's accompanied at the podium with Marwan Saloom, our Public Works Director.
Thank you, Mayor Farrell and Council. It's my pleasure to present some plans for a 320th Veterans Way entrance sign into the city. And with me is our Director of Public Works, Marwan Saloom. Beginning in October of 2014, Mayor Farrell and the Service Club Network have worked together on plans for a new city entrance sign on 320th at Veterans Way. The sign features would include a high-resolution LED message board, fiber access for remote programming of the message board, Service Club logos with the City of Federal Way logo, and the sign would be located on 320th Veterans Way by the I-5 off-ramp. Here is a diagram of what that display would look like. As you can see, it's 8.3 inches wide. It's almost 12 feet tall. Has the city logo on the top with a significant high-resolution LED screen on both sides of the sign. So what you see on one side, you would see on the other side as well. And then some brickwork. I'm happy to report that this sign would be in compliance with our City of Federal Way sign code.
Ooh, that's close.
So here's a diagram of where that would be located, the sign that we're proposing, and this right here is the Ram restaurant. Or no, that's is that the hotel?
Yeah, that should be the ramp.
That is the Ram. Okay. So you can see as you're coming around, where you can see the stoplight coming off I-5 southbound at 320th Veterans Way. That's where that sign would be located. The entrance sign program elements, this LED sign content would be managed by the city, and with that we will draft a policy regarding the guidelines for the message board content. But the intent of that is to showcase community events, showcase city-related business, and so there's really a lot of opportunity. The Lodging Tax Advisory Committee is supportive of this effort as well. In 2014, they recommended the allocation of $15,000 towards this project. Our service club network, which is fairly unique, that brings all of the service clubs together, would contribute $5,000 towards the cost of this sign, and that actually represents the cost of that logo portion of the sign. Following receipt of responsible bids, staff will work to identify additional funding for council approval to complete the project. And as I said, this would be in compliance with the sign code. Our Federal Way Service Club network, these are the 8 organizations that would be represented on the sign. The club network itself, Rotary, Kiwanis, Lions, the Greater Federal Way Women's Club, Masons, American Association of University Women, and Seroptimists. We've had key community members that are a part of the service club that since October that we've been working with, and I have several names here that certainly are key members of our community, and included in there is Councilmember Honda and Deputy Mayor Burbidge. Here's our tentative schedule for sign installation. We issued a request for quotes on December 23rd. The bid opening will occur on January 9th. We will present that to FedRec on the 27th, council meeting for bid award on February 3rd, award the contract on the 4th, expect a notice to proceed on March 2nd, and our goal is to have the completion by April 30th. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Council, any questions? First of all, before I just want to say thank you to Councilmember Honda and Deputy Mayor Burbidge for your involvement in this, and so we appreciate that. I think Councilmember Selski has a question, and we'll turn it over to Councilmember.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Farrell. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Marwan, for the presentation. Look forward to seeing this. This is going to be a welcome addition to our city, and a nice monument to see as newcomers come in, and visitors. So my question is, with the contribution being made by the service club, what exactly does that buy them? Are they contracted in any way, or?
Well, certainly, their interest in having signs that showcase the club in the city so that people know that there is a Rotary Club or a Kiwanis Club or a Soroptimist group. And that's been an issue for them for quite a while, wanting to have some sign. And many of the signs in that regard are rural in nature, that are on a pole and, isn't going to work in an urban environment. So under Mayor Farrell's direction, we met with those clubs and started working on an option, where we can come together on a design that will work. And there's a great deal of negotiation and talk in terms of what that would look like. So the $5,000 cost is basically preliminarily we've identified as that's what the cost of that logo portion on both sides of the sign would be. And there isn't a great deal of capacity with those organizations to fund a project like this, but we wanted to make sure that they were included and be happy with the content of what we put forth. So that is a very low amount, of money in terms, but certainly something that is, they've committed to and are anxious to have this a part of our city.
Okay, and so they'll be represented on that sign as far as, for the future.
Yes.
The distant future. What if some other new club comes along and wants to be represented? Has there been any consideration of that? Not that there is one identified right now, but is there flexibility for something like that?
I believe there is, especially with the city logo, for example, because part of our efforts to have rebranding and to look at maybe, if in the future, not to say that will be, but if there was a change in our city logo or something, we have the capability to do that.
Okay.
So a lot of it has to do with the structure of the sign itself for that portion of the sign. But we could work with them to make changes in that regard.
Okay, thanks. Definitely can't wait to see that.
Councilmember Cepados and then Councilmember Duclos.
So I have two questions. One is kind of similar to what Councilmember Selski asked. Would there be space if there's additional service agencies, service clubs move to Federal Way? Would there be room to add those?
Under the current design, we have just the 8 that are there. So if we have additional service clubs that get identified, then we'd have to make some arrangements to make changes. But the service clubs that we have have been in place for many years. So there was quite a bit of discussion on the service club level about who could be on the sign, especially private nonprofits, wanting to have a presence on the sign. And the service club group drew a line and said, this is service clubs, not nonprofits. And from us, from an operational standpoint, we could have over 50 to 60 nonprofits and the prioritization of who gets on and who doesn't. Even within the service clubs, there's like within the Masons, there's several offshoots of the Masons, and the club as a whole came through with, okay, here are the 8 groups that we want to have represented on the sign. So that decision process as to who's on the sign and the service club is made by the the network, not by the city.
And then I have another question. There's a sign for the movie theater right there, correct? Is that where I'm thinking?
Yes.
The movie theater and then the city, welcome to City of Federal Way. So I'm envisioning where it's probably going to be a little cluttered with all these other signs in that area.
I believe the city, the movie theater sign is towards is east of where we would plan to do it, but we do believe we have good visual that's unobstructed, both east and westbound in that area.
Thank you.
Councilmember Duclos and then Councilmember Honda.
Oh, I just wanted to say that in my travels for the multi-service center, which for many, a lot of times I would be driving to different locations, and when I was entering a new city, they did have signs like this, and it would list the different service clubs they had. And it always made me feel good to see what was going on in that community. So I think this is a benefit for people coming off the highway. They don't know much about us. If they see that we have these kinds of service clubs that are really involved in the community, I think it's a benefit for us, and I'm really pleased to see this happen.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Duclos. And once we get this done, I think we're going to be thinking about perhaps another one on Pack Highway at some point. Councilmember Honda and then Councilmember Moore.
Thank you. I'd like to thank both our Chief of Staff and the Mayor for listening to the service club's concerns. You know, in the beginning, the cost was quite a bit more to each club, and that was not something that the clubs could participate in because they'd rather give their money to scholarships and that kind of stuff for the people here in Federal Way. But this group, this Service Club Network group, is an amazing group of people, and it's pretty much unique to Federal Way. And by having the logos on this sign and the Service Club Network logo on there, people will be able to search, Google the clubs and the network and find out what's going on in Federal Way with the nonprofits. You know, it was quite the discussion about who would be on this sign. And, you know, the service clubs figured out who was a service club and what wasn't a service club in Federal Way. But every club in Federal Way is still very, very important. They all do something very special for our citizens. So anyway, thank you for listening. You guys did a great job listening. Thank you.
All right. We've got Dick Mayer in the audience as well. That's played an important role. So thank you, Dick, for your service. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Honda kind of echoed the words I was going to share, and that's I actually had an opportunity to attend the service clubs organizations for the first time. To tell you the truth, I didn't really know what that was until I attended. And yes, it's an amazing group of folks that serve our city, and I was in awe. And I learned a lot. It was incredible to watch our Chief of Staff interact with a room full of incredible people that had unique and different opinions that are all really important. So it was great to see our Chief of Staff in action, trying to bring people together and get the exact expectations out. And secondly, I want to say that entrance sign that's sitting there has been there for a really long time. And I'm going to dare to say that I was there when I was in junior high and high school. And so I know this is a long time coming. And I appreciate this change because it's not only did my boss talk about this when he was on the council, but it's something I've heard a lot of people talking about. And more importantly, it really changes Federal Way. And I think it really walks us towards modernizing our city, and as my colleagues have stated, showcasing the great parts of our city. And the last point is clearly we've been using those orange boards. I don't know what the technical
VMS
words.
boards.
VMS boards. Exactly, and clearly they're effective. And so utilizing this welcome sign in addition to advertising our citywide events, I think is going to be a great thing. So just thanks for all you're doing, and thanks to the Office of the Mayor as well.
And I'll echo what Councilmember Honda said. You know, the group is just a phenomenal group. You said that as well, Councilmember Moore. I mean, we really have, a great group of people. Dick Mayer's here, who are passionate about service, and to have that group come together And boy, differences of opinion. I mean, it's phenomenal, but we were able to get everybody together, and this will be a great project. And the capabilities of this LED screen.
Oh yeah, tell them about the when they came in the truck that came in the parking lot.
It's
Brian.
incredible what's capable. They brought in a sample, and we really are looking for high quality that will last. This is a 10-year investment for us, in terms of how long conservatively this will work. They brought it in on the back of a pickup truck high, and the gentleman who said, well, gee, let me go off the website and let me put some things on the screen. So he did it with his computer in the parking lot and pulled out all the stuff off our website and then started screening it in the parking lot.
Like the Christmas tree.
Like the Christmas tree,
yeah.
A notice of community events, video, pictures. It's really going to be exciting, and I think our citizens will really see something special. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Marwan. All right. Let's see here. Oh, and just the last item. We've got this Friday is going to be Blue Friday. We're not going to have a rally yet for the Seahawks. We're going to wait till they get to the Super Bowl. But this Friday, or actually this Thursday, we're going to put the big 30-foot by 30-foot flag that we got last year, and it's going to get draped out in front. And then on Friday, we're encouraging city employees, council members, the public, to wear your Seahawk jerseys. We're going to take a picture of as many employees and citizens who want to come out at 11:45 this Friday in front of the big banner. So I'd love to have you there. We're going to take a picture, and we'll probably send it over to the paper and send it out regionally as well into the regional media. But we're waiting for the Blue Friday before the Super Bowl, and we'll knock it out of the park like we did last year. So, all right, that's my report. Thank you very much to everybody, my team and our team, I should say, our team. Great job on your presentations tonight, everybody. All right, so let's move on to the most important part of the evening, citizen comment. Norma Blanchard, who has waited patiently. Thank you, Norma. Go ahead. You are on. And then after that, Joanne Paquette.
Patiently? I'm not patient. I'm Norma Blanchard, a longtime resident of Federal Way. And this past weekend, I was looking at my papers about term limits, and it came up on initiative. We had an initiative on the street in August of 2010 when it was pulled because the 90 days were still on it. Then there was a fight to get the 90 days off. It came off. And then September the 8th, 2011, there was a big article in the Mirror about term limits in Federal Way. But now I'd like to ask, since our council member brought up term limits at the last meeting, thank you, what is going to happen to this? Is there going to be a discussion, or is it going to be put on the back burner and set on fire and not going to anything happen to it?
I got an answer for you, but
Okay.
I'll wait till you're done.
I'm listening. I'm through.
Okay. Well, thank you again for coming and championing this issue. I was just actually talking to when we were making the agenda or working on the agenda for the council retreat on January 31st on Saturday at Dumas Bay. This is when this was brought up by Councilmember Maloney and discussed and voted on by the council. This council agreed and voted on to have it discussed at the retreat on January 31st. So it's on our agenda.
Thank you. I will be there.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you very much.
31st at 9 o'clock?
Yep. Yeah, the 31st. And if that changes for any reason, I'll make sure. But because we were talking about changes possibly in that date. If that changes, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Norma. Okay, Joanne Paquette and then Anthony Marietta.
Thank you, Mayor Farrell. I do that every time, Mayor Farrell and Council. I just wanted to give a quick report on what the Federal Way Coalition of the Performing Arts has raised so far in pledges initially, and this was a couple days ago, and so these figures might not be totally accurate. $677,030 and $677.30. were pledged. And we have so far collected 599,605. So that's a pretty good percentage. We have, our deadline is the 15th of this month, and we've just sent out reminders to those who had pledged, but, and so we expect to really raise all that money. And just wanted to, I have little arrows here I'm trying to follow. And anyway, just to bring you up to date a little bit, that our MOU with the city ended the end of December, and that has been renewed. And so we're moving on. We're trying to think of new ways to raise funds, and we really hadn't paid a lot of attention to the businesses yet. All of this money, almost, is from private individuals. And, so it's great to see that the people who want their names on the plaza, which was $250,000, have already paid it. And the people with the want their names on the orchestra pit for $150,000 have paid it. And both of the $50,000 for the meeting rooms have paid those. So our major ones have already paid. And so the others are lesser. Some of them are for the seats, and we had different tiers of cost depending on where the seat is in the facility. And so a lot of those have come in. So we feel, I get 5 minutes.
You do.
Anyway, so some of the grantors that we've applied to have indicated they will be more interested when we're actually starting construction. And so it isn't like they turned us down. It's just that they said, come back later when you're closer to that. And we thought that there are some that don't actually do the building, but they would do something within the building. And so, we're able to sort out a lot of that information. But as I say, now we are going to start focusing on the businesses in the area, and particularly those that have businesses kind of around the facility, and we'll be able to show them that they will benefit from this happening. So that's our latest, and we're just, moving along, and everything so positive has been happening tonight that we're just glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. And that's an incredible accomplishment with the $599,000. That's phenomenal. So thank you so much for that work. All right. All right. And Anthony Murrieta. And then I don't have any more citizen comments. So if anybody wants to comment, please fill out a pink sheet.
Thank you. Earlier, when you talked about the creation of the PAC and having the Culinary Arts Center, the Puget Sound Skills Center, which is located in Burien, part of the Highline School District, is a conglomeration of vocational studies which supports other school districts, and I believe Federal Way School District is a part of that. So if you want to have vocational studies in Federal Way, instead of the school district having that, they send you to the Puget Sound Skills Center. They have a culinary arts program, and I would hope that you would talk to them to find out if you can not reinvent the wheel, but maybe utilize a skills center which already has a culinary arts program, and have this be maybe a satellite campus so that you can send our Federal Way students to the vocational center funded by Federal Way dollars, which would take advantage of the training you're talking about earlier for our citizens to get good paying jobs. Part of that overall process is my next point, which is you have the ability when you're putting out your RFPs or whatever process you're going to have with this contractor to ensure that they have prevailing wage, that they use community work source agreements, and I encourage you to do that. I want to see the $32 million that you're investing get recycled into our community and ensure that local contractors get that business. Now, I've about a year ago, I sent you all an email, and again, I'd like to urge all of you to come and visit the Union Painters Allied Trade Center's Apprenticeship Program Training Center off of East Marginal in the city of Seattle.
It's amazing.
It is, and I'd ask that all of you come and take a look at this, because whatever additional dollars you may spend in the construction costs is going to come back in a higher quality, lower maintenance, and again, you can put part of this process that they require a certain amount of apprenticeships, and those apprenticeships being people who are local. Again, tying into the skill center, which would then utilize Federal Way students who are involved in apprenticeship programs at the skill center. I've seen this done in the Newmarket Skill Center down in Olympia, and quite frankly, Olympia Skill Center takes advantage of that culinary arts program to have days in Olympia for the representatives, get them down there to showcase it, and then ask for additional funding because they see what those dollars actually pay for. So thank you very much, and I hope you consider putting all that into your RFP.
Thank you, Anthony. When I visited that site about a year and a half ago, we actually had a lengthy conversation about our Performing Arts and Conference Center, so we'll reconnect with those folks. Would you please do me a favor and connect with Tim about the educational component you were just talking about, and making sure we connect those dots. Sure. All right, thank you very much. All right, now moving on to our, I don't see any more pink sheets, so we'll move on. Great citizen comment, everyone. Now let's move on to the consent agenda. These items have been approved through committee agenda and can be approved in one motion and vote. Item A, minutes, December 2nd, 2014, regular city council meeting. Item B, South 304th Street at 28th Avenue South intersection project, 85% design status report. Item C, Lakota Middle School safe routes to school project acceptance. Item D, resolution, acceptance of grant funding for transportation projects. Item E, resolution, setting public hearing date for the street vacation of a portion of South 330th Street. Deputy Mayor Burbidge, do you have a motion?
I do. Thank you very much. I move approval of items A through E on the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the matter passes. Item 6, council business, economic development strategy, next steps. Before our economic development director, Tim Johnson, gets started, I do want to let the public know that Tim gave us a presentation earlier this evening from about 6 p.m. to just prior to 7, just prior to the beginning of this meeting. And we're going to be replaying that presentation with this meeting as well. Normally we don't replay special meetings, but because of its importance, this meeting and the special meeting will be replayed. This is a shortened version or truncated version, but with that, Tim, please proceed.
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council, Tim Johnson, Economic Development. Again, we're going to do a short presentation here again on the economic development strategy, some assembly required. Oops. I want to quickly just go through with you the accomplishments of the first 100 days. As we had talked about earlier in tonight's meeting, we had made a submission of pipeline applications to 9 CDFIs, participated in 3 neighborhood connection meetings. I'm staffing the LTAC for the Deputy Mayor, staffing the PAC Grant Committee, which Joanne just alluded to, providing staff for the reuse of Warehouser. We completed the conditions and considerations report, which we'll get to you. I want to thank Councilwoman Honda. One of the key elements associated with her introductions that she made for the Pacific Bonsai Museum and the Rhododendron Foundation, Species Foundation, really important. And I didn't talk about that and didn't allude to it under the Warehouser, but it is a key component of our effort to make sure that we retain those organizations as a part of the reuse of Warehouser. Currently participating on the Town Center PAC team, involved in the acquisition of the Target site, which we now call Town Center 3, and participate on that team. As a part of the effort during the first 100 days, I met with the largest commercial property owners in town so get an idea of what their feelings are. Meetings with economic development peers from Seattle, King County, Tacoma, Pierce County, and the cities of Auburn, Renton, Toccoa, SeaTac, and Kent. Began production of the Federal Way Business Minute, which I'm hoping you're all receiving. Update to the city center planned area, SEPA. Went out and helped get the coordination of sponsorships for the flag raising on Veterans Day. Participated in one of the representatives that were here that was too bad he left early, the host for the Kenyan delegation that we hosted earlier this year that came in and was looking at business opportunities. And then, of course, as I alluded to earlier, met with one of the owners of the Sacramento Kings, who came here because of the interest of what you're doing with the PAC. And again, I want to share with you, here's a photo of the delegation from Chantu, which was really well received, and the responses that we got back were great accolades for the work of the city staff on that. And then here is the chairman and CEO, Glenn Renwick of Progressive Insurance, and the mayor, Councilwoman Honda, and the deputy mayor and myself are with their, I guess you would say, their spokesperson, Flo. You know, so.
Otherwise known as Stephanie Courtney.
Yeah, absolutely.
Flo's real name happens to be the name of our city clerk. So we just call her Flo. All right.
Again, our purpose is to create jobs while we're continuing to diversify and sustain our community. The name of the report, Some Assembly Required, reflects and draws attention to the goals and objectives involved with the planning, designing, financing, and construction associated with the programs, projects, and services needed to accomplish the strategy. I want to quickly just talk again about some of the outcomes and expectancies. This falls in line, the strategy falls directly in line with your budget of 2005 through 2016. And we're aligned with that. And again, expectations are anywhere from $350 to $450 million in public-private investment during that period of time. My knowledge and expertise tells me that based upon floor area ratio and the development that will occur, especially with the reuse of Weyerhaeuser and the corresponding development of the town center, that there will be 10,000 full-time, permanent, and temporary jobs that will be announced or created during this period of time. That we can and should reduce poverty levels by 4% by the end of 2016, which will take us down from 15 to 16% to hopefully 11 to 12%. I believe that falls in line with what you're thinking, what the council's been working on in helping uplift the community. And then one of the other key elements is access to $8 million from community-based loan programs for Federal Way entrepreneurs. Our vision and goal, become the premier community in the Puget Sound, produce solutions to attract and retain jobs and investments, and improving tax base and enhancing the quality of life is our mission. We have 6 goals, and they are identified in the following categories. There's 3 here. Here's the next 3. I think it's self-explanatory as we move to that. We have over 30 objectives that we will be working on. Again, the emerging themes that came out during the research were that we have a young population, we have a great quality of life, we have a diverse and skilled labor force, we have a wonderful location here in the Puget Sound. There are issues that we need to work on in terms of education levels, income levels, job housing balance, and then we need to obviously address the major question in the subsequent reuse of the departure of Weyerhaeuser. Our highlights of the objectives, we'll be coming out with a summit. Again, this will not be a forecast. This will be bringing in people who can help us understand how to position Federal Way better in terms of attraction and of businesses. Something called the Federal Way Showcase. This is an effort that I've used in other communities over my 35 years to bring focus groups to the mayor and you, the council, to help explain what you're trying to do in this community and get face-to-face with these folks. It's been very successful in previous years where I've used it, and it can account for over $5 billion where I've done this in previous efforts. Formulation of business district associations, recruitment of a branch campus of a major university. Something that I had talked to you earlier about was the Idea Zone. This is an incentive zone to attract innovation, design, education, entrepreneurialism, and arts in the downtown area. Talking about hosting an Entrepreneurs Fest. Again, 70% of the businesses in our community employ between 1 to 5 folks. It's standard operating procedure for most economic developers to make sure that those folks are taken care of. Looking at a Women in Business Conference, the fastest growth in entrepreneurialism is by women, not by men, guys. Women are taking that position. And then an annual program called Operation Landlord. And while I have a face made for radio, I still think that we ought to have something called Film a Federal Way and focus on recruitment of films and television here to Federal Way. You didn't even break a smile or laugh when I told you that joke. It must be getting late, so I'm going to have to proceed through.
I smiled.
Okay. Examination of a community development corporation. Mayor's Roundtable. I'm looking for help and assistance. This does not preclude anything from the council. I need some help with some advice because I can't always get to you folks, so I need some help just to bounce ideas off of folks. Enhance sister city business relationships. Again, reuse of Warehouser and town center projects. Where do we go from here? After tonight, we'll go tomorrow night to the Planning Commission on the 20th. Bless you. On the 20th, we'll go to regular council meeting, back on a public hearing in front of you. Then on the 27th, we'll be in FEDRAC. On the 31st, we'll be at the council retreat. I'm not sure how I got into a 1-hour presentation on that. Mayor, I'd love to ask the council if that even needs to be happening, so maybe we can focus on that. And then February 3rd, hopefully by then we can, if you feel comfortable and we've made all the adjustments and refinements that you want, we can have adoption and move forward. With that, that concludes the presentation. I know it's getting late.
Council, any questions? Okay, all right, thank you very much. And for those watching at home or weren't here at the earlier meeting, there was an earlier meeting in which a number of questions were asked, and Tim's presentation was quite a bit longer. But thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. All right, and now moving on to council reports. Councilmember Duclos.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll be a little brief, but I do want to say that I know Councilmember Selsky reported on this at the last time. He had met with Dr. Mary Leeson over at the Senior Center, and I had a meeting scheduled with her for the following week, and I had a wonderful time with her, over an hour chatting with her about her experiences, and she's writing some poetry and hoping to get that published. Then last week I met with Ken Newton, and both of these people were in the military. That's why I found it very, very exciting to talk to them. They have quite a history. And he served. He has quite a story. He entered the military from high school, and he'd been in kind of a reserve program in high school. I don't know if they called it ROTC in those days, but he went into the Army, and he trained at Fort Lewis, and served his duty, and then came back home and worked for a while, but decided he wanted to be back in the military. So he had to start all over again, but then he was a little bit older and had a little bit more weight on. And he had to go through basic training again and do all of that. But he did it, and he continued to serve. He became part of a helicopter team that rescued soldiers from Vietnam that were down, and he talked about pulling one guy out of the ship had gone down, pulling one out of the ocean, which was something. From after Vietnam, he was sent to Korea for 13 months, and then Germany, and he really enjoyed his time in Germany. And finally ended up in El Paso, Texas, to finish his career. It was just a delightful hour I spent with the man, and of course, the facility over there is really great. The people really take a lot of pride and ownership in the Federal Way Senior Center, and it serves an area that doesn't have a whole lot of services too, especially for seniors, which is really neat. And I'm beginning to feel like I'm part of it now because they were offering me food and everything. It's just a great time and a wonderful facility. And listening to these people's stories, I wish they could go into schools and talk to the classes and the kids and let them know what they have done for our country. They've done an awful lot, and they've dedicated a lot of their life to making our lives a lot better. So I really do appreciate them and look forward to working with them in the future. I'm not going to go through the SCA stuff because it's boring and it's getting late. The last thing I want to say is go Hawks.
Hear, hear. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to say Happy New Year to the people that are watching and that will be watching later on YouTube and the people that are in our audience. I also want to say how pleased I am to have been selected by SCA to serve on the Mental Health and Drug Dependency Oversight Committee. So that obviously that's one facet of homelessness that's affected, and so I look forward to learning and updating the council on that issue, and certainly working with our Human Services Committee and with many leaders on that issue. Also, I'm excited. I'm really excited about what's happening with Federal Way, and this economic strategy, as I understand, is the first. I'm going to say in the history of Federal Way, and that's powerful. That's unique, and it's enlightening, quite frankly. And what I'm encouraged by is the fact that, and this is one of the things that got me to run for office, which was looking towards the future of Federal Way and getting the generation of today to stay in Federal Way and build a future and build a family here. And so I'm glad to hear that the young population is being looked at very seriously. That's important. But of course, I'm reminded that we also need to take care of our senior citizens too. And so I know that we're working on that, and that's part of the plan. Also want to say congratulations and good luck to Representative Linda Kochmar and Senator-elect Mark Meloso as they begin their tenure in the House, their term, which is this coming Monday. If you're interested in attending the swearing in, I know that Representative Linda Kochmar and the Senator-elect's office is ready to answer those questions in terms of times. I don't have that. With that, I also want to end my report, Mr. Mayor, and just encouraging people to pray and to keep in their thoughts of our own Councilmember Selski's son, who's serving in Afghanistan, and just want to take the time to ask people to pray for him and make sure that he is kept safe. And not only pray for him, but for his family, because I know he has a relatively young family, and so that's my ask of you tonight in the community and people here in the audience. And so with that, I will end my report. Thank you.
Councilmember Selski.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Moore. I really appreciate that. That touches my heart. We're just glad to be back in session here with the council, with the community, and hope everybody had a really wonderful holiday season with family, friends, loved ones. And we're ready for a new year here. And just following up with what Councilmember Moore said, my wife and I were able to visit our son and our daughter-in-law in Fort Bragg, North Carolina in December. We spent a week down there and really had something special happen. We were invited to and went to his unit's Christmas party. This is a unit of special operations soldiers. And we met with about 30 soldiers and their families, and these are all patriots. These soldiers have all been to Afghanistan, been to Iraq more than one time. And it was great to see them with their young families, their children, and having a great time, and the kids sitting on Santa Claus's lap. So, you know what, they do this on active duty military installations, just like we did this here right in Federal Way. So it was really fun to be there and to meet with them. And as we flew from Fort Bragg back here to Federal Way, he flew to Afghanistan the same day. So our timing couldn't have been better. But anyway, thank you for that, and appreciate everybody's support and prayers for him and all soldiers and our active duty members who are still in harm's way in the Middle East and other places. My wife Sue and I spent an evening at the Reach Out homeless shelter at St. Vincent de Paul in the middle of December as well, and it was a really cold night. There were about 30 men. This was the men's shelter. There were about 30 men that came in that night, and it was just great to meet up and connect with them and offer them a meal and just get them out of the cold for that evening. And I can just tell you this Reach Out thing is an amazing organization, and it's made up of many, many volunteers. And I want to say thanks to the people who staff this, who volunteer, and also to the 5 churches that are providing the host facility and, of course, cooking facilities and all the things that they put together. It's a great organization, and it's just, there's a lot of wonderful people that are helping to put this thing together, and it was good to be a part of it, at least for that one evening. And lastly, like you mentioned, this is an exciting time. I am really looking forward to where we're going. Tonight was just, I can't say how excited I was to hear all the presentations and the great things we have going on in Federal Way, from the sign to economic development to the PAC. I mean, and my hat's off to you, Mayor Farrell, for all the initiatives that you've started, and we're all running a mile a minute because of a lot of your work and your staff's work. And so thank you very much for all you're doing.
Thanks.
And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Honda.
Thank you very much. On Tuesday, January 13th, in Olympia, Washington, there is a Korean War Veterans Memorial Service from 11:30 to 12:30. It's pretty close to the Capitol. You'd have to look for signs when you get down there, but this is a annual event. I've been before. My father-in-law is a veteran of that conflict, and it's a very moving experience if you're able to attend. That evening at 5:30 in Bothell, there'll be the 8th annual Washington State Korean American Day celebration. I've also attended that several times, and that's a very interesting and very energetic event generally. It's very moving also to be there and to hear the stories of our the people who have come here from Korea, the people who have made Washington State their home. The Parks, Recreation, Human Services, and Public Safety Committee meeting is next Tuesday, January 13th, the same day, at 5 p.m. here at City Hall. Everyone is welcome. We do take public comment at that meeting, and we have a very long agenda. It takes up a whole page. You're welcome. Bring food. I'll bring chocolate. I am pleased to continue to serve on the following suburban city committees: the Flood Committee, the Domestic Violence Initiative Committee, and I was appointed this year to the Board of Health, which I'm very pleased to be on. And I too am looking forward to 2015. Federal Way is a wonderful and amazing place to live in and to be part of, and I know 2015 will be a great year for not only the city of Federal Way but for our citizens. And one idea that I'd like to propose for Town Square is a children's museum. You know, we haven't talked about that, but we were, over the holidays, we took our 3 grandsons down to the Olympia Children's Museum, which I've heard great things about. It is awesome and amazing, and if we could have just a fraction of that here. You know, a lot of the funders for that, as I walked around, were hospitals. We have Children's Hospital coming in. I mean, we could do it. What? You know, and it would fit really well into our town square, one of those sections. Great. So anyway, Happy New Year, and 2015 is an exciting time for us here in Federal Way.
Thank you. Councilmember Maloney.
Thank you. Yes, Happy New Year to everyone. It's going to be a great year. I can just tell. And as Councilmember Selsky said, Mayor Farrell has really led the way on a lot of the initiatives that we're working on, and it's just a really exciting time to be a part of this community. Right now, my trajectory is kind of along the lines of what I've been working on for the past year or more, are the university initiative and the rebranding, and so I've spent some time the past month working on those initiatives with meetings and talking with people about those projects. I did not seek out any regional committees because I'm doing a lot of pro bono work and contributing to the community in the way I can. And so I'm doing a lot of pro bono work for organizations that support workforce development and job creation. And the work I'm doing ties in with my background in marketing, communications, and branding, media relations and government relations, that kind of stuff. And so I decided to use my time that way. So I've been spending a lot of time on those projects as well. And I think the trade-off is just as valuable for the community. So if you don't hear my name on those committees, that was my personal choice to contribute in that way. Let's see. I just also wanted to thank the staff for all of the work they've done. The roundup of holiday events that we had this year kind of just tipped the scale, in my opinion, for everything, or I should say last year, for everything that that the staff has done in this year. Last year was a mega year, and it was so fun, and the tree lighting was a joy to be at, and I just, we could all go on and on, but I'm just very excited to be a part of this community and contributing in any way I can. Thank you.
Councilmember Sepulveda.
Thank you, Mayor. I too am really excited for 2015. I'm looking forward to it. I have this energy that I really am excited to utilize and use. I'm also going to be serving on the Committee to End Homelessness for the Suburban Cities Association, and it really is in line with what I currently do. I work for the Housing Authority. I also already serve on the Committee to State Advisory Committee on Homelessness, as well as I had already served on the ad hoc for the Committee to End Homelessness for immigrant populations. So I think it's really in line with what I do and what I've been doing. So I'm really excited and looking forward to that. And as you all heard, I will be speaking at the MLK event, and I'm really excited about that opportunity. And I did attend the Youth Commission first meeting, and those kids are really exciting, and I'm excited for them, and they already have plans for what they want to do in 2015. Already between now and August, they just have a plan out there, and it's just great to see that energy. And so I'm really happy for them. And I'd like to end this with tomorrow's Ethiopian Christmas. So I just want to shout out to the Ethiopian community here, as well as all the other people who are celebrating Orthodox Christmas. Merry Christmas. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Burbidge.
Thank you very much. I want to announce the next meeting of the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, which will occur a week from tomorrow, Wednesday, January 14th at 8 o'clock in the morning. And just briefly, a couple things. I want to, again, acknowledge our amazing staff. We saw so many outstanding presentations this evening that have generated a great deal of energy and enthusiasm. It's very rewarding to hear my colleagues express their optimism about the coming year. I certainly share that, and there's a great deal of energy in the room, even though it's late and we're tired. And I also want to point to, in particular, one acknowledgement of the folks on our staff who decorated the Christmas trees all over the downtown. That was particularly effective this year, just really an outstanding job, so thank you very much for that. And I did sign up for a renewal of 2 committees through Suburban Cities Association, and I'm serving on the Economic Development Council for King County, and also on the Puget Sound Regional Council Economic Development District Board. So I'm looking forward to that involvement, having maxed out my eligibility for transportation boards and commissions for the most part. Thank you very much.
All right. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually would like to see if I can encourage my council members and my colleagues, rather, and the mayor, if you can sing happy birthday to our chief of police and to Tim Johnson, if that would be okay.
And I'll raise you one better. Next
Okay.
time you're back in the mayor's office, you're going to be able to see Taco Tim and El Jefe wearing their sombrero hats yesterday for lunch.
There you go.
So let's.
Can we sing?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's-
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Teddy and Tim. Happy birthday to you.
We have a tradition when it's somebody's birthday on the management team, or even myself, that we have to go to Puerto Vallarta, a Mexican restaurant, and get your picture taken with a sombrero. So come check out the sombrero wall when you get a chance.
Yeah, that's not fair because my birthday is December 15th. I always get messed up on any presents, and hers was the 16th, so.
All right. Well, the sombrero is in your future. Now, you guys, two things. We have executive session that is scheduled tonight property acquisition pursuant to RCW 40-30-1101B. We are 20 minutes before. The question is, do we need a motion to go past 10? No. Okay. I'm getting the indication that we can get it done before 10.
Can we take a 5-minute break?
Yes, 5-minute break.
We may want to motion then just to be on the safe side.
Okay.
Do we need to go to that time if we?
No, you do not. All you need to do is suspend the rules to allow to go after the meeting.
Is there a motion?
I'm so moved to extend the time.
I'll second
Tim.
it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
We are in recess to executive session to begin in about 5 minutes, or let's say quarter till.
Yeah.
Quorum being present, I hereby adjourn the meeting.